Commander Du Young stood at the center of the Galactic Council chamber. The massive room was filled with representatives from 200 alien species. Their different shapes, sizes, and colors made the chamber look like a living rainbow. Some floated in anti-gravity pods, while others sat on specially designed chairs. But all of them looked down at the human with the same expression: doubt. Du Young took a deep breath. He was the first human to speak in this chamber, and his message was important. The council had been discussing new rules for honorable warfare between species. Every alien race seemed proud of their combat traditions. They talked about proper battle formations, announcing attacks in advance, and fighting only at agreed-upon times. Honored council members, Du Young began, his voice clear and strong. Humanity thanks you for accepting us into the galactic community, but we must warn you about your ideas of war. A tall, blue-skinned alien raised all four of his hands. Warning? From a species that has barely left their solar system. Many others laughed. Du Young didn't smile. He pressed a button on his tablet, and the chamber's screens lit up with images from Earth's history. Tanks rolling through cities, guerrilla fighters hiding in jungles, submarines striking without warning. This is how humans fight, he said. We don't announce our attacks. We don't line up in neat rows. We don't wait for the enemy to be ready. He showed more images: soldiers in camouflage, stealth aircraft, hidden bunkers. The alien delegates started whispering among themselves. Some looked angry, others confused. A small bird-like creature spoke up. This is barbaric. Where is the honor in such combat? There is no honor in war, Du Young replied firmly. Our history has taught us this lesson many times. War is about survival. When we fight, we use every advantage we can get. We hide. We strike from behind. We attack at night. We use tricks and traps. The council leader, a tall creature with silver skin, leaned forward. Are you saying humans refuse to follow the Galactic Combat Code? Du Young shook his head. We're saying the code itself is dangerous. It will get your people killed. Real war isn't a sport or a ceremony. It's brutal. It's ugly. And the side that fights with honor often loses to the side that fights to win. More images appeared. Nuclear explosions, cities in ruins, soldiers in trenches. Humanity fought countless wars before we unified. We learned that combat traditions and honor codes just lead to more death. The only true honor in war is doing whatever it takes to end it quickly. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. Many delegates stood up, pointing at Du Young and demanding he take back his words. The council leader had to bang his gravity hammer several times to restore order. Commander Du Young, the council leader said, his voice cold. Your species' primitive approach to warfare shows how much you have to learn. The Galactic Combat Code has kept peace between civilized races for 10,000 years. Du Young looked at each council member in turn. Peace exists because you haven't met an enemy who ignores your rules. But somewhere out there, such an enemy exists. And when they come, your combat traditions will not save you. He bowed slightly and walked toward the exit. At the door, he turned one last time. Remember this warning. Humanity hopes you never need it, but we fear you will. Real war has no honor. And if you forget that, you've already lost. The door closed behind him, leaving the council in stunned silence. Some delegates were angry, others thoughtful. None realized they had just heard the most important warning their civilization would ever receive. In his ship, Du Young sent a message to Earth Command. Warning delivered. They didn't listen. May the stars help them when they finally understand. Admiral Jeho of the Stellar Dominion stood proudly on his command ship's bridge. Through the massive window, he could see the human colony world New Eden, floating like a blue jewel in space. His fleet of 50 warships formed a perfect triangle formation behind him, just as the ancient combat texts demanded. Send the formal declaration of conquest, Jeho ordered. As tradition requires, give them 1 full day to prepare their defenses. His communications officer transmitted the message. The admiral smiled, imagining how impressed the humans would be by their honorable approach. The Stellar Dominion had conquered 12 species this way, and each had praised their noble methods. The response came faster than expected. A single line of text. Bad choice. Jaiho frowned. How uncivilized. They don't even use the proper response format. On the colony below, Commander Hay-Newell finished reading the Dominion's war declaration and turned to her staff. They really did it. They actually announced when they're going to attack. She shook her head in disbelief. Begin Operation Shadowfall, she ordered. They want to wait a day. Let's make it a day they'll never forget. That night, while the Dominion fleet waited in their perfect formation, small human ships slipped past their sensors. These weren't warships. They were civilian mining vessels, modified to carry special cargo. They scattered thousands of small objects around the Dominion fleet. At dawn, Jaiho prepared to begin the honorable conquest. All ships move into Attack Formation 3, as written in the... He never finished the order. The small objects around his fleet suddenly came alive. They were mines, but unlike any the Dominion had seen. Some released clouds of tiny robots that ate through ship hulls. Others fired electromagnetic pulses that shut down ship systems. Many simply exploded, creating chains of destruction through the perfectly ordered fleet. This is impossible, Jaiho shouted as his ships fell into chaos. They're supposed to wait for our attack. This isn't how war works. Hay-Newell watched from her command center as the Dominion fleet broke formation, their ships colliding with each other in confusion. No, she said quietly, this is exactly how war works. But the humans weren't finished. As the Dominion ships struggled, civilian transport ships appeared from behind New Eden's moon. The Dominion sensors showed they were full of refugees. Their honor code strictly forbade firing on civilian vessels. Instead, the ships released clouds of small fighters that had been hiding inside. They're using civilian ships as weapons carriers. Jaiho's second-in-command was horrified. That's against every rule of combat. The small human fighters darted between the larger Dominion ships, firing precision shots at engines and weapons. They didn't try to destroy the ships, they just made them unable to fight. Within 6 hours, before the Dominion's planned attack could even begin, 30 of their ships were floating helplessly in space. The others were trapped in defensive positions, unable to maneuver without risking collision with the countless mines still drifting around them. Jaiho received a transmission from the surface. Commander Hay-Newell's face appeared on his screen. The Stellar Dominion fleet is now surrounded, she said calmly. You have 1 hour to surrender, or we'll demonstrate what else we can do. The Admiral stared at the human commander in shock. You've broken every rule of warfare. Where is your honor? We tried to warn your council, Hay-Newell replied. War isn't about honor. It's about protecting our people. You should leave now, Admiral. And when you report back, remember, this was us being gentle. As Jaiho gave the retreat order, he remembered the human commander's warning to the council. He had laughed at it then. Nobody was laughing now. In orbit around New Eden, the mighty Dominion battle fleet limped away, their perfect formations shattered, their combat traditions proven worthless against an enemy who simply didn't care about the rules of honorable warfare. The grand meeting hall of the Stellar Dominion War Council glowed with red light. Fleet Commander Ta-1 watched as holograms showed the defeat at New Eden from every angle. The other council members sat in silence, their faces dark with anger and shame. This cannot stand, the High War Master said, hitting his fist on the table. The humans have insulted our entire civilization. They must be taught the proper way of war. Ta-1 stepped forward. I volunteer to lead the response fleet. I will show these humans how true warriors fight. The council approved his mission immediately. They gave him 200 ships, the largest fleet in Dominion history. Each ship was bigger and more powerful than the ones Admiral Jaiho had lost. Surely this would make the humans understand their mistake. But Ta-1 was smarter than Jaiho. He studied the reports from New Eden carefully. When his fleet jumped into human space, they came in scattered formation. No perfect shapes this time. He also brought special sensors to detect hidden mines. His target was the human mining colony on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. "Send the declaration of war," he ordered. But this time, he added something new. "Tell them we will attack in 3 hours, not 1 day. Let's see how they handle a surprise." On Titan, the message reached Defense Chief Yujin. She read it and smiled. 3 hours. How generous of them. She pressed a button on her command console. "All units, execute Operation Ghost." Taiwan waited exactly 3 hours, just as promised. His fleet moved toward Titan in attack formation. His new sensors showed no mines. The path was clear. Then his sensors officer shouted, "Commander, I'm detecting movement in the ice fields." The frozen methane lakes around Titan were melting. No, not melting. Moving. Hundreds of hidden human ships rose from beneath the ice where they had been hiding. They had used the moon's natural methane oceans as cover, something the Dominion sensors couldn't see through. "Impossible," Taiwan shouted. "They couldn't have prepared this in 3 hours." "They didn't," his second officer said quietly. "They were waiting for us long before we arrived." The human ships were smaller than the Dominion vessels, but they moved like swarms of angry insects. They didn't try to fight ship to ship as honor demanded. Instead, they flew in random patterns, firing from unexpected angles, using Titan's heavy atmosphere and Saturn's rings as cover. Taiwan tried to maintain proper battle formation, but it was useless. The humans ignored all the rules of space combat. They used electronic warfare to confuse Dominion targeting systems. They launched clouds of debris to block sensor readings. Some human ships even deliberately crashed into Dominion vessels after their crews escaped in pods. "Fight properly," Taiwan demanded over the communication channels. "Face us in honest combat." The response came from Defense Chief Yujin. "We are fighting properly. This is how humans wage war. You're the ones fighting wrong." After 6 hours, Taiwan had lost 60 ships. The humans darted between his formation, striking and vanishing like ghosts. They seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Then came the final blow. The human ships suddenly retreated. Before Taiwan could claim victory, his sensors detected massive energy readings from Titan. The humans had rigged the entire moon's methane processing stations to explode. The blast wasn't meant to destroy his fleet. Instead, it filled space with a cloud of frozen methane crystals. The cloud disabled sensors, froze engine ports, and left his mighty fleet blind and stranded. "You have 2 choices." Yujin's voice came through the static. "Retreat now, or wait here while we pick your ships apart one by one. Either way, you've lost." Taiwan gave the retreat order. As his battered fleet limped away, he finally understood. The humans hadn't prepared for this battle in 3 hours. They had prepared for it since the day they warned the Council. Every human colony was ready for war. Real war, not the ceremonial dance the Dominion practiced. The age of honorable warfare was ending, whether the Dominion liked it or not. Grand Strategist Sunmai sat in her private chamber aboard the Dominion command station, surrounded by holographic displays showing battle reports. Her eyes moved from one defeat to another, searching for patterns in the chaos of human warfare. For 3 months, the Dominion had lost every major battle against the humans. Their fleets were scattered. Their battle plans failed. Their most sacred combat traditions proved worthless against an enemy that refused to follow any rules. "Show me the Titan battle again," she commanded. The hologram replayed the scene of human ships rising from the methane seas. Sunmai watched it 5 times before speaking again. "Now show me the new Eden defense." Another hologram appeared, showing the mines hidden in civilian ships. A pattern was forming in her mind, but she didn't want to accept it. It went against everything she had learned in her 200 years as a military strategist. Her computer chimed. A new report had arrived from Admiral Yujin's latest victory. This time, the humans had used captured Dominion ships as traps. They filled them with explosives and sent them toward Dominion rescue fleets. When the rescue ships tried to help their seemingly damaged allies, the trapped ships exploded. "Computer, calculate our total losses," Sun Mai ordered. The numbers appeared before her: 342 ships destroyed, 8,000 crew members dead, 15 colonies under human control, all in just 3 months. Sun Mai closed her eyes. The Dominion had existed for 10,000 years. They had conquered dozens of species. Their combat traditions were considered the most advanced in the galaxy. But now, she opened her eyes and began to write her report to the High Council. "Distinguished Council members, I have discovered why we are losing this war. The answer is simple but difficult to accept. We are not fighting a war. We are performing a dance while the humans fight for survival. Our ships fly in beautiful formations. The humans hide in gas clouds and asteroid fields. We announce our attacks. The humans strike without warning. We follow ancient combat rules. The humans adapt and create new strategies every day. We try to show our honor. The humans try only to win. This is not because humans are evil or uncivilized. It is because they understand something we have forgotten. War is not a ceremony. War is not a sport. War is survival. The humans tried to warn us. We thought they were primitive. We were wrong. They are not primitive. They are prepared. Every human colony is ready for war. Every civilian ship can become a weapon. Every piece of their territory is a potential trap. We cannot win this war by following our traditions. The humans will never fight the way we want them to fight. They will never stand in neat formations. They will never announce their attacks. They will never fight with what we call honor. If we continue this way, we will lose everything. Our only choice is to change. We must learn to fight as the humans fight, or we must make peace while we still can. The choice is yours, honored council. But remember, every day we waste following our ancient traditions. The humans grow stronger. They are taking our ships, studying our technology, and learning our weaknesses. They are not like the species we conquered before. They do not care about impressing us with their honor. They care only about protecting their people, their worlds, and their future. We must decide. Will we adapt and survive, or will we die with our honor intact? With deepest concern, Grand Strategist Sun Mai. She sent the report and waited. For the first time in her long career, Sun Mai felt fear. Not of the humans, but of whether her people could accept the truth before it was too late. In her chamber's window, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving in shadows, preparing their next attacks. They wouldn't wait for the Dominion to change. They wouldn't fight fairly. They would simply win, one battle at a time, until the Dominion either learned their lesson or fell. Commander Sang-Ho stood on the bridge of the Sacred Blade, the Dominion's most honored warship. The massive vessel had never lost a battle in its 300 years of service. Its golden hull bore the marks of 50 victories, each earned in proper combat according to the ancient traditions. Today, that perfect record would end. The battle for Proxima Centauri had started normally enough. The Dominion's newest fleet, rebuilt after the Titan disaster, arrived in perfect formation. They had even brought their most sacred ships, thinking this would show the humans the true meaning of honorable combat. Status report, Sang-Ho ordered, watching the battle map carefully. His fleet had surrounded the human colony world, following Grand Strategist Sun Mai's advice to be less predictable. They had spent days checking for traps and hidden ships. All clear, Commander, his sensor officer reported. No signs of human vessels within range. The colony appears defenseless. Sang-Ho frowned. This felt wrong. The humans always had a plan. They never left their worlds truly defenseless. But his sensors showed nothing. No ships, no mines, no hidden weapons. Then his navigation officer shouted, "Commander, multiple objects approaching from the outer system." Sang-Ho turned to the view screen. In the distance, he could see several small dots moving toward his fleet, As they got closer, his blood went cold. They weren't ships. They were asteroids. The humans had strapped engines to dozens of asteroids and launched them toward his fleet days ago. They had been moving slowly, looking like natural space debris until now. Suddenly, the engines fired at full power, turning the asteroids into massive weapons. Evasive action, Sang-Ho ordered, but it was too late. His ships were too close together, their formation too perfect. As they tried to move, they blocked each other's escape paths. The first asteroid struck a Dominion cruiser. The impact split the ship in half. The second asteroid shattered into pieces, creating a wave of destruction that ripped through the fleet's perfect lines. "This is impossible," Sang-Ho's second officer whispered. "Using asteroids as weapons, it's forbidden by every combat code in the galaxy." More asteroids approached, their paths carefully planned to cause maximum chaos. Sang-Ho watched in horror as the Sacred Blade's sister ships, each one a treasure of Dominion military tradition, were smashed apart by rocks from space. Then came the second phase of the human attack. Small, fast ships appeared from behind the asteroids, using the chaos to slip through the Dominion's broken formation. They didn't engage in ship-to-ship combat. Instead, they fired special weapons that stuck to the hulls of Dominion vessels. "What are they?" Sang-Ho demanded. His answer came when the devices activated. They weren't bombs. They were computer viruses in physical form, burning through hull plating to infect ship systems. One by one, Sang-Ho watched his mighty warships lose power, their advanced technology turned against them by an enemy that saw no honor in fighting fair. The Sacred Blade was the last ship hit. As his systems went dark, Sang-Ho received one final message from the human commander. "Your sacred ships now belong to us. We'll study them, learn from them, and use them to end this war. Go home, Commander. Tell your leaders that their traditions just cost them their most precious vessels." Sang-Ho stood in his darkened bridge, surrounded by the ruins of the greatest fleet the Dominion had ever built, all destroyed not by superior ships or brave warriors, but by rocks and computer viruses. The Sacred Blade, pride of the Dominion fleet, drifted powerless in space. Its golden hull, marked with centuries of honorable victories, was now scared by the most dishonorable defeat in Dominion history. The age of sacred warships and noble combat was over. The humans had killed it with rocks from space. High Council member Minji walked through the silent halls of the Dominion's Central Research Facility. The usual sounds of scientists at work were absent. Instead, she heard only urgent whispers and the hum of emergency meetings behind closed doors. The latest reports sat heavily in her hands. They told a story that she feared would mark the end of the Dominion's 10,000 years of supremacy. The humans weren't just defeating their ships. They were taking them apart, learning their secrets, and making them better. Minji entered the main laboratory, where the chief researcher waited with his team. The huge room was filled with holographic displays showing captured human technology. Most of it looked crude compared to Dominion standards, but that no longer brought her comfort. "Tell me everything," she ordered. The chief researcher nodded gravely. "The humans have already mastered our shield technology. They reversed engineered it from the ships they captured at Proxima Centauri. But they didn't just copy it. They improved it." He showed her a simulation. The humans had combined Dominion shields with their own primitive armor systems. The result was stronger than either technology alone. They had done in weeks what had taken the Dominion centuries to develop. "How is this possible?" Minji asked. "Our research protocols are sacred. It takes years of proper study to understand even basic systems." "That's the problem," another scientist said. "We follow strict research traditions. We study technology in the proper order, with proper respect. The humans, they just tear everything apart and put it back together in new ways. They don't care about the proper way to learn." More reports appeared on the screens. The humans had taken Dominion energy weapons and modified them to work with their crude projectile systems. They had studied Dominion ship designs and found ways to make them smaller, faster, and harder to detect. "It gets worse," the chief researcher said quietly. "They're sharing everything they learn with all their colonies. Our sacred technology secrets are spreading across human space like a virus." Minji sank into a chair, her formal posture forgotten in the face of this crisis. The Dominion had always controlled other species by keeping their most advanced technology secret. They shared only what was proper when it was proper, but the humans didn't wait to be given knowledge. They took it. "How long?" she asked. "How long until they match our technology level?" The scientists looked at each other nervously. Finally, the chief researcher spoke. "At the current rate, 2 months, maybe less, and they won't stop there. Their way of mixing technologies, of breaking rules we followed for millennia. They'll surpass us soon after." Minji stood up suddenly. "Call an emergency session of the High Council. All members must attend." As she hurried through the halls, her mind raced. The Dominion was losing more than a war. They were losing their position as the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Their carefully preserved technological superiority was disappearing. The humans didn't respect the proper way of learning. They didn't follow research traditions. They simply found what worked and used it. Their ships were now appearing with impossible combinations of technology. Dominion weapons powered by human engines, protected by hybrid shield systems that shouldn't exist. In her private chamber, Minji began preparing her speech to the council. The words felt like poison in her mouth, but they had to be said. The Dominion had to sue for peace. Not next week, not tomorrow, but today. Because every hour they waited, the humans grew stronger, learning and adapting and changing. The species that had ignored every rule of warfare was now ignoring every rule of technological development. And they were winning. Chief Diplomat Dahyun stood before the mirror in his quarters aboard the Dominion diplomatic vessel White Grace. He adjusted his ceremonial robes one final time, making sure every fold followed the ancient patterns. These robes had been worn by peace delegates for thousands of years. Today, they felt heavier than ever. The ship approached Earth's orbit slowly, broadcasting peace signals on all frequencies. Behind the White Grace flew 2 other diplomatic ships, both painted pure white as tradition demanded. No weapons, no shields, no honor guard. For the first time in Dominion history, they came not to offer peace, but to beg for it. "We are receiving Earth's response," his aide reported. "They will allow 1 ship to land. The others must remain in high orbit." Dahyun nodded. Even this small change from diplomatic tradition felt like another defeat. Usually, all peace delegations were welcomed with full ceremony. But the humans, as always, made their own rules. The White Grace descended through Earth's atmosphere, following the strict flight path the humans had provided. Through the viewport, Dahyun saw the city of Geneva spread out below. His intelligence briefing had said this was where humans traditionally made peace treaties. But as they landed, he saw no welcoming crowds, no honor guard, no traditional displays, just a simple landing pad and a small group of human officials waiting under the rain. "Remember," Dahyun told his fellow delegates, "we must set aside our pride. The future of the Dominion depends on this meeting." They walked down the ship's ramp, trying to maintain their dignity despite the rain soaking their ceremonial robes. The human delegation was dressed in simple dark suits. They made no effort to match the Dominion's formal appearance. A tall human woman stepped forward. "I am Director K of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We will skip the traditional ceremonies and move straight to negotiations." Dahyun felt his face flush. Skipping the peace ceremony was almost unheard of, but he swallowed his pride and bowed slightly. "I am Chief Diplomat Dahyun of the Stellar Dominion. We come seeking." "We know why you're here," Director K interrupted. "Our analysts predicted this visit 3 weeks ago. We have already prepared the peace terms." She handed him a data tablet. Dahyun read it, his hands trembling slightly. The terms were harsh but simple. The Dominion would withdraw from all human-controlled space. They would share their technology freely with Earth. They would acknowledge humanity's right to defend itself by any means necessary. These terms, Dahyun began, are not negotiable. Director K finished. You have lost every major battle. Your sacred ships are in our hands. Your technological advantage is disappearing. You can accept these terms today, or face worse ones tomorrow. Dahyun looked at his fellow delegates. Their faces showed the same realization he felt. This wasn't a peace negotiation. This was a surrender dressed up as diplomacy to save what little pride the Dominion had left. We warned you, Director K said more softly. Your council laughed when our commander tried to explain how humans fight. You could have avoided all of this. Dahyun pressed his thumb to the tablet, marking his acceptance of the terms. Thousands of years of Dominion diplomatic tradition ended with a simple electronic signature. As they walked back to their ship, Dahyun realized something important. The humans hadn't just defeated the Dominion's military. They had defeated their entire way of thinking about war, peace, and power. The rain continued to fall, washing away the last traces of the Dominion's pride. 1 year after the peace treaty, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The raised platforms where Dominion representatives once sat proudly were now level with all others. The ceremonial weapons that had decorated the walls were gone. In their place hung a simple message: peace through strength. Earth's diplomatic chief, Jin-A, stood at the center of the chamber. Around her sat representatives from 200 species, including many who had once been under Dominion control. They had gathered to hear humanity's proposal for a new approach to galactic warfare. The old ways are finished, Jin-A began. The Dominion's defeat proved that ceremonial combat doesn't work. We need new rules, real rules, rules based on what war really is. The chamber was silent. Even the Dominion representatives, seated quietly in their new modest spaces, listened carefully. First, Jin-A continued, we must accept that war is not about honor. It is not about tradition. It is about survival. When we pretend otherwise, we only cause more death. She pressed a button, and images appeared around the chamber. They showed scenes from human history, peace treaties, humanitarian aid, medical ships helping wounded enemies. But this doesn't mean we abandon all rules, she said. Instead of ritual combat, we propose real laws of war, laws that protect civilians, laws that reduce suffering, laws that help end conflicts quickly. A tall Dominion elder stood up, and if species refuse these new laws, then they face the consequences, Jin-A replied firmly. Humanity will enforce these rules, not with ceremony, but with action. We've proven we can defeat any force that threatens peace. She displayed the new treaty on the chamber screens. It was simple and clear, nothing like the complex honor codes of the past. No rules about battle formations, no ritual combat requirements. Instead, it contained practical laws. No targeting civilians, no weapons of mass destruction, no torture of prisoners. Rules that meant something real. We also propose sharing defensive technology among all species, Jin-A continued. The Dominion kept their best technology secret, claiming it preserved peace. We believe the opposite. When everyone has strong defenses, war becomes too costly to start. The chamber erupted in discussion. Many species were shocked by the idea of sharing advanced technology. Others saw the wisdom in it. Commander Du Young, who had given the original warning to the council, now stood beside Jin-A. 1 year ago, I told you that real war has no honor. Today, I tell you something else. Real peace comes from strength and wisdom, not from tradition and ceremony. He looked at each council member in turn. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to destroy your cultures or traditions. We want only to prevent more pointless deaths from ritual warfare. The new treaty passed with a large majority. Even the Dominion voted for it, having learned their lesson at great cost. As the council session ended, Jin-A noticed an old Dominion warrior talking quietly with a human admiral. They weren't following any diplomatic protocols. They were just talking, soldier to soldier, about real things. That, she realized, was true progress. Not the grand ceremonies or formal rules, but people from different worlds finally speaking honestly about war and peace. The galaxy was changing. The age of ceremonial combat was over. In its place came something harder but more real. True understanding of what war and peace really meant.